In this lesson, we're going to be reviewing the periodic table and how it can be used to classify or group together elements that have similar characteristics. I strongly suggest that you have a periodic table in front of you as we are going through this lesson. It will help you as we proceed through. Hopefully you're a little bit familiar with the periodic table already, but here are a few key things that I want to make sure that you remember. The periodic table is laid out kind of like a grid. There is a horizontal organization that we call rows or periods, and there is a vertical organization that we call columns or families or groups. The row numbers are listed usually on the side here, and that refers to everything that is in this row. So let's just outline that in purple. Goes all the way across, even though there's a gap. So all of those elements that are in the second row or second period of the periodic table have 2 electron shells. The row or period number gives us an indication of how many electron shells there are. So elements that are in the third row or third period have 3 electron shells, and so on. In the vertical direction, we are looking at the columns. Not very good at drawing straight lines here. The column numbers are listed across the top in regular numbers, 1 to 18, and the group number is also indicated here in Roman numerals. The Roman numerals are the ones we're going to focus on. They're very important in that they tell us the number of valence electrons for all of the elements in that group. So for example, magnesium, which is in group 2A, has 2 valence electrons. Valence electrons are very important in terms of determining how reactive they are. That helps you to determine when they're combining with other elements, how many we will combine. So it's an important information in terms of the bonding and the reaction. We're going to use lithium as an example just to show how much information we can get from the periodic table just by identifying where in the periodic table the element is located, meaning the group and the period, and also by using the information that we're given in the box for that element. So the number here that is an integer is always the atomic number, which I'll record in the table in just a moment. And the number that is, the other number is the atomic mass. The atomic number is always going to be the smaller of the two and is always an integer. So that helps you to distinguish between them. The atomic number is not always in the top. Atomic mass is not always in the bottom. Some periodic tables, they flip them around, but it is important that you be able to identify which is which. So the element we're looking at today is lithium. That is the symbol that we use for lithium. Usually in the box it'll actually have the name listed there as well. I haven't done that here, but it's usually in small text underneath. The atomic number we said is 3. We get that from the box. The atomic number is important because it also tells us the number of protons and the total number of electrons that we have for that element as well. So the atomic number, number of protons, number of electrons, those are all connected. The family or group Take a look at your periodic table. You're going to see that that is in group 1A. We're always going to use the Roman numerals here. And the 1 there tells us the number of valence electrons. Now, I can't see, oh, there we go. We have 1 valence electron for lithium. Somehow I magically changed my color. Okay, the period, if you look on your periodic table, you'll still see that lithium is in group period 2, the second row of the periodic table, which means it also has 2 valence electrons. Now, the number of neutrons is a little different. That's the only piece of information that we need to actually calculate. The atomic mass is the number of protons plus the number of neutrons. Now, we round off that atomic mass to make it an integer, the atomic mass number we call it. So it's closest to 7. 7 is equal to the number of protons, which we have here in our table, 3, plus the number of neutrons. So now we can see the number of neutrons that we have will be 4 for lithium. Okay, the number of neutrons does not always match the number of protons. That's a common misconception that students have. Okay, now what does this look like in terms of our atomic structure? Well, we said there are 2 electron shells, which is why I have drawn in 2 of them. I have indicated a maximum number of 2 electrons in the first shell and a maximum number of 8 electrons in the second shell. That's what those what that structure tells me, but I have a total of 3 electrons for lithium. So I'm always going to start off with my innermost shell, fill that one first. So I've got 2 in the first shell, and then I've got 1 in the second shell. So fill the first shell, then go to the second shell, and you know what? This one here, that is my valence electron. Good. I was expecting 1, and that's what I have. In terms of the electrons and how we arrange them in the shells, here's a little bit more information. The first shell has a maximum of 2 electrons. Remember, we're always going to start with the innermost shell and work outwards. Then the second shell has a maximum of 8. The third shell has a maximum of 18, but we don't fill it right away. We start off with 8 electrons in that third shell, then we add 2 into the fourth, and then we continue finishing the third shell. So for the first 20 elements, we typically think of it as 2, 8, 8, 2. All right, so that's how we arrange them. The first shell we put 2, the second shell we put 8, the third shell we put 8, the fourth shell we put 2, and then we actually go back to the third shell and finish that up. So I would suggest that you take a moment before we get started on this slide, write this down. If you do not have the table in front of you, we're going to be working through this. Take a moment, pause the video, and write it down so that you can fill in the table as we go. So let's take a look at some of the elements and just practice a little bit putting them or identifying the group and period number that they are associated with. I've done the first one for you. So the family or group, we should really have that word group in there too. Family or group for nitrogen is group 5A, VA. Remember, we're using Roman numerals for the group number. It is in the second period, and that means it has 2 electron shells. The number of valence electrons is associated with the family. So those 2 are connected to one another. Let's take a look at where calcium is. Calcium's over here. This is the period. This is the group number up at the top here. Okay, so our group number or family is 2A. It is in period 4, which means it has 4 valence electrons. I said that wrong. Has 4 electron shells and 2 valence electrons. So remember, valence electrons goes with family, period, and electron shells, those ones are connected. All right, let's take a look at helium now. Helium is way over here. So helium is in the first period and is in group 8A. So let's write that down, group 8A. Period 1. It has one electron shell, but it does not have 8 valence electrons. This is one exception to the pattern we've been looking at. It can't have 8 valence electrons because it only has 2 of them altogether. Okay, it's in that first row. The first row is an exception to our rule. So the number of valence electrons it has is 2. It fills that first electron shell, which makes it very stable, but it does not have 8 valence electrons. Okay, let's take a look at chromium, Cr. See where that is on the periodic table. Chromium is in this transition area here. The row or period 4, and the group is VIB. So the family is VIB or 6B. It is in period 4. It does have 4 electron shells, and the number of valence electrons still matches the Roman numerals here, even though it's in group B. So it has 6 valence electrons. Okay, take a moment and fill in the rest of the table for scandium and for fluorine. Scandium is SC. What family and period is it in? How many valence electrons and electron shells? Same with fluorine, F. What family and period? Electron shells and valence electrons. Fill in the table, then you can proceed and check your work. You can use this slide to check your work. Did you get everything right? The vast majority of the elements in the periodic table are metals. They are the elements on the left side of the periodic table. They are good conductors. They're shiny, malleable, ductile. They tend to donate electrons. They usually have only a few valence electrons. They want to get rid of those in order to be stable. So they tend to donate, and they like to react with acids. Nonmetals are typically on the right side of the periodic table. They like to combine with metals. They like to accept electrons, so when the metals are donating electrons, those nonmetals like to accept them. That's why they are such good buddies, they react well with each other. They're not shiny, ductile, or brittle. They're usually good insulators. Metalloids are in the middle. They're usually pretty breakable. They're not ductile. They will conduct some electricity sometimes, but they're not very good at conducting heat. They are along that staircase on the periodic table between the metals and the nonmetals.